Hello, welcome to the 6th episode of the Equanimity Sounds podcast. I'm your host, Kyle J.E., and this is brought to you by Tranquil Road Records. Today we are with singer-songwriter Sam Stucky from Pittsburgh. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kyle.
You're welcome. Sam is about to release an album on October 21st called Saccharine. Would you mind just starting this off, telling me a little bit how that album got started?
Yeah, sure. So that album has been in the works since February, and it's a more acoustic album than some of my older stuff. And I was hoping that would mean that it would be able to get recorded faster, but it didn't really happen. It still took about 8 months. But the songs have kind of, writing the songs has been a process that's been in the works for a good year and a half. A lot of the songs are about becoming a musician in the city of Pittsburgh, not just doing it as a side gig, but actually pursuing it as a career, and what that means for me, and kind of the process that I am taking to pursue that.
And you've been doing that in Pittsburgh for how long so far?
A year to year and a half.
And generally, how have you enjoyed that?
It's a struggle for sure. And I still have a couple other part-time jobs to also bring in side income. But I mean, it keeps me really busy. This summer I've been playing a ton of gigs to help get a steadier flow of income, and while working on that album. And I also always keep a couple days per week to be able to work on music, so that I'm never my evenings, I'm not working in the evenings, and I have at least 2 full days to actually focus on music, whatever that's booking or working on online advertising or whatever it is. So
yeah, that's nice. It seems like you're doing really well about keeping the balance with that. Do you have, for your gigs, have you been doing solo stuff more or with a full band?
Yeah, it's been mostly solo. That's a lot easier to schedule and easier to just pay myself and not have to pay other people. But I've been doing a lot of background music gigs at bars and breweries, where they just want live music for 2 or 3 hours, and people aren't really listening as much, but it's okay because it's also kind of public practice. And there are definitely worse ways to spend 2 or 3 hours than just getting paid to play music. So
yeah, those are always good experiences. And do you have you have an album release show coming up that is on October 26th. Would you like to tell everyone where that is?
Yeah, that's going to be a house show at my house. And the address for that is going to be after people buy the tickets. But you can find more info about it at my Facebook, which is facebook.com/notsamstucky. Or you just search Sam Stucky Music on there. And under events there. And yeah, it's going to be an album release show. We have one other opener lined up right now. They're another band from Pittsburgh called Kindred Blue. And probably we'll get one more. We'll see. But yeah, it's gonna be a good time. We're hoping to have it outside in our backyard.
Nice. So if you're listening to this before October 26th, be sure to try to go if you're near Pittsburgh. And for the album, if it's after October 21st, be sure to go give it a listen and yeah, check it out. I was able to listen to it this morning and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed catching a lot of the meaning in the songs. You want to talk a little bit about maybe just the songwriting process for the album? Was it similar to how you went about songwriting for your previous album?
Yeah, sort of. So generally my process has been kind of just sitting down and starting to play a chord progression or whatever comes to mind, and I'll sort of just sing along with it, and whatever my subconscious says, I'll kind of just sing that and kind of go with it if it makes sense, and try to figure out what my subconscious wants to say, and then kind of build off of that. And then I think I didn't like sit down and say I want to write 7 songs around this specific theme of like nature teaching lessons. It was more like, here are 7 songs that I happen to have written in the past year. Oh, look, here's a theme. They're all kind of connected. That would fit together really well as a story, and then put them together in that way.
I think that's really cool that it just like came together like that. That maybe that's just like your focus, what your focus has been recently, and it just kind of what's important to you right now.
Yeah, it was really interesting. But I think any group of songs you could kind of take and stretch to like fit a specific theme, sort of. But these ones did happen to all tie in really well with nature and kind of the lessons that nature can teach us about life. So.
And you have a upcoming single called Pomegranate, right?
Yep.
That's going to be releasing before the album drops.
Yeah, that one's coming out on October 14th. Depends on when you're listening to this podcast, but also you can check that out or pre-save it. Links on my Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is.
Do you want to just give a little insight on specifically that song, like the meaning, the lyrics in that?
Absolutely. So that song is about continuing to try and continuing to like put out your creative works no matter what people say and whether or not they like it, and to not be kind of scared of doing that, and not be scared of putting something out because there might be something better, or you need to wait till the appropriate time to put it out, because kind of like the metaphor is that like pomegranates have all these seeds, and the seeds are like a metaphor for like all your ideas and your creative works that you want to share with the world. And sometimes people will keep telling you that it's not good enough, or but like a pomegranate and like humans, we have like hundreds of more ideas. You're never gonna like run out of ideas for that. And it also kind of talks about how like in youth we are like not as scared of rejection, but as adults that becomes like a much more legitimate fear for people, and trying to like harness that lack of fear that I think a lot of people can relate to as youth, not really caring what people think. So that's the general idea. Yeah,
I love it. There's a lot of good stuff in there for sure. I can easily relate to, I mean, I've like from my experience I've done well with just like being able to release stuff even if it's not like this perfect polished thing, but it's definitely a balance of like putting your heart and like enough effort into it, and then not just trying to like throw it out in the world when it's not like as good as you can make it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that, like I said, you're always going to have more ideas, and you shouldn't just like wait because it's not perfect. I mean, nothing is ever going to be perfect. There's something you can always do better. Put your stuff out there and get content and get feedback, and then come back, and if it's not good, then come back and make something better. So
it's also good to just like not be scared to put yourself out there, even if like, I mean, for right now social media makes it really hard to not care a lot about what people think, so it's really good to just be able to still put something out there where no matter what people are like, how people are responding to it, and just be happy with the like what you're creating.
yeah, I actually listened to the entire Kyle J.E. discography today too, while I was working. So that was pretty cool too. I like chill hop is like what I listen to focus in general, and I think that it fit right in with that. I think that's what you're going for.
Yeah, I hope that was a good time. Could you tell me a little bit more about the nature theme? What kind of, I don't know. Like you said that just kind of came together as a theme for the whole thing. Is there any like specific things that you have been thinking about, like regarding nature and humans and how we exist in nature?
Um, Not specifically. I mean, I think I was just like, as a person who enjoys being in nature, that's just kind of what my subconscious thinks of metaphors for, and I think that it's the God's creation and the world is a really inspiring and beautiful thing to write about, and that just kind of happened naturally. But um, I'm surrounded by green space in Pittsburgh, and try to spend a lot of time outdoors. So I think just subconsciously that happened to take root in my mind. But I mean, it talks all about, like, there's a song called Sun, there's a song called Seeds. Another one of the songs is about the shooting that happened in Pittsburgh last October, and kind of a metaphor for like us being a part of a world, a community, a global community, kind of like trees or leaves are a part of a bigger forest, and kind of understanding that everyone's kind of made different or whatever, looks different, but we're all really the same race, which is human, and we're all responsible for the mistakes of the global community as a whole, of the forest as a whole. So that's another quick synopsis of one of the songs.
Oh, thank you. That's it's important stuff. I don't know. It's so great that you're making these meaningful songs, and I don't know. I think people really need to, I don't know, just be reminded of that. It's so easy to get caught up in our own lives that we forget the bigger picture. And being in nature definitely helps remind you of that too. Is just existing and like appreciating the world around us.
Yeah, I'd like to like write songs specifically too about like problems with climate change and whatnot, but this album doesn't really talk about that directly.
Is that going to be the next one? Next album?
That might be the next one, yeah. That would just be, I don't know. It's harder for me to think of a topic and then write the lyrics as opposed to just start singing and see where it takes me. So when that happens subconsciously, that's when it's dropping.
You just need to ingrain those thoughts into your life so much that your subconscious starts spitting those ideas back out.
Yeah, you're right. I'll work on that.
All right. How has the time you spent like focusing more in on music, how has that kind of impacted like how you view your own life? Like a transition to like seeing yourself as like a musician who's doing this as like their career.
Well, it's made me more like appreciative of the people who follow their passions and pursue their dreams, whether that's music or art or whatever creative process. You know, like the things that are generally looked down on by society and not considered a real job. But it's also given me a lot of appreciation as a person who lives in a house with a bunch of other people who are working different jobs that might be 9 to 5 or whatever it is, and sometimes they like their jobs, sometimes they don't, and it's the same for me. So it's still similar in that sense, but it's just been a really cool journey to be able to like follow my passions as a musician. And actually the most recent song I wrote and just last weekend wrote and played for the first time was a song about like going to a band practice for my own music and thinking to myself for the first time, I had this feeling like I don't really want to go, and like kind of dealing with that, because that's kind of like a scary thing. It's like I've been working, like I'm so privileged to be able to pursue my dreams as a musician. Why am I feeling this thought? Why am I thinking this? So that's just like a scary thing. And I think anyone who is a creative mind or has spent any time pursuing their dream, whether or not that's music, like can relate to that. I don't know if that's happened to other people, but it's definitely a real thing that happened to me. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, could you like, I don't know, maybe share a little bit why you think you had that feeling of like not wanting to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like whenever you make something your job, it starts like losing its appeal sometimes. And I think that's happened like with a lot of things throughout life. Like let me think of an example. All right, so like in college, playing like ultimate frisbee is like was a hobby of mine, and I love to do that. But I think if I like was my job, I would get tired of doing it, and I like wouldn't want to go practice or get better at it every day. But if it's like something about like making your passion your career takes something out of it, and it's all about like finding that fine line and balancing the two. And I like, and yeah, I just don't know if I'm where I'm at on that spectrum right now. So, but does that make sense? I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit.
No, that definitely makes sense. I definitely feel that too. It's hard. I think for me, it's like it puts this kind of like pressure. You're like putting some pressure on yourself that takes away from like what creating is about. And like you can still have what it's about, like like the feeling of, hey, I want to create, so I'm going to do this as like my career. You can still have that, but it's kind of hard to keep that as like the central focus.
Yeah, I think that was much more eloquently said. So like if you have the pressure of people expecting new content, and you want to like have a new song every show, because especially as a local act, you get a lot of the same people coming out to shows, then it kind of loses its appeal. You're forcing your creative processes to happen, when a lot of the times I think the best ideas and creations come naturally, rather than trying to sit down and force them out.
Yeah, I can relate to that too. Something that like has helped me just like create and like focus or like force myself to create is to like put limitations on it, and just like I'm going to create something, but I'm going to follow these rules, or it's going to be like this long or this simple. And it helps me, I don't know, it kind of like tricks my brain into, I don't know, making it easier to create that thing.
Are you setting aside like a specific amount of time every day to create, and like cutting yourself off too?
No, I haven't done that.
Okay, I thought that's what you were saying. Like,
I'm thinking more for like, I'm talking about like a specific song. If you're going to write a song, you're going to make it about this, or like you're going to use this kind of like musical idea in it, and then base the song off of that.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess it could be a lot different for songwriting, because all of my music is instrumental, so I don't really deal with like lyrics and direct meaning.
Right. No, it can still apply.
Before I forget to say this, go follow Sam Stucky on Facebook. What was your Instagram? I don't know if you mentioned that yet.
It's at not Sam Stucky, because there's actually a second Sam Stucky who lives in Chicago. So it's really confusing. Look up not Sam Stucky.
All right. Yeah, thanks so much for joining me and sharing about your perspectives on like nature, life, music, and sharing about your album. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and everyone check out the album dropping October 21st called Saccharine. All right, peace.